Let's break down what really happened leading up to the firing of Jerod Mayo after his first year, because let's be honest, it wasn't the 4-13 record. Everybody knew coming into the season the Patriots weren't going to the Super Bowl, let alone the playoffs. But Jerod Mayo definitely didn't help himself, and now recent reports are coming out, some from anonymous players currently on the team. It was just a dumpster fire. So before I break into that, do you guys think it was a dumpster fire? Because I appreciate everybody hanging out with me every Sunday to watch the Patriots lose. But overall, I'm glad the season's over. I'm glad we got that out of the way. Now we can rebuild, get a new head coach, and focus on the next thing ahead, which is getting back to an above 500 team. If you guys are glad the Patriots season is over, go on ahead and like this video for me. Now, I do not want to stand up here and belittle Jerod Mayo. I think he is a good coach. I think he needed a little bit more help. But overall, the enemy here, or the person that really hurt himself, was Jerod Mayo. And that's extremely unfortunate because you were handed a crappy roster. Nobody's blaming you for that. But you definitely could have helped yourself in the process of the 18 weeks to secure your job moving forward. I do wish they gave Jerod Mayo a little bit more time before he became a head coach, but we knew it wasn't going to be a good season. Now, did Jerod Mayo help himself? Absolutely not. Throughout the year, Jerod Mayo continuously bit his own tongue. He didn't make head coach decisions. He didn't have discipline, and it really seemed like he lost the locker room before halfway through the year. He called the team soft after they lost in London against the Jacksonville Jaguars. While some of us may agree with him, you don't say that as a head coach. You are supposed to be a leader. And, more importantly, you're probably supposed to take the blame. He referenced the Super Bowl win when he went out and failed clock management in a loss to the Tennessee Titans. Number one, thanks for losing the game. Number two, thanks for reminding us we haven't won a Super Bowl in a while. He noted coaches can't do anything after the players cross the line. That's just bullshit. And then, when he comes out here asking why they didn't run Drake May on a 3-and-1 tush push, a 4-and-1 tush push, and why Alex Van Pelt didn't run that scheme, Mayo said, "You said it, I didn't." Well, you're putting the blame on your offensive coordinator. Not to mention, you got blown out not once but twice with 10-plus days to prepare to the Jets and to the Cardinals. Now let's really talk about that Cardinals game, right? Because the Arizona Cardinals, with Kyler Murray and James Conner healthy, it's a really tough team to take down. They can be very good. But they were also trending downwards by the time the Patriots had played them. And they made Kyler Murray and Arizona look like freaking Super Bowl contenders. But I'm not so much worried about this score, right? That's pretty average. We were pretty used to that the entire season. I'm more concerned about what Jerod Mayo did to make sure they didn't lose the next game. Or more importantly, how will he respond to this loss? Holy cow, this report is juicy. Chad Graff came out on The Athletic talking about what Jerod Mayo did after this specific game. On the airplane, on the long plane ride back, most of Mayo's assistants grabbed their laptops and studied cut-ups from the loss, the customary move for NFL coaches during the return flight after games. A few executives slept, so they'd be ready to work once the team buses rolled into the Gillette Stadium parking lots a little before 8 a.m. In a move that surprised some at the front of the plane after such a lopsided loss, according to a team source, Mayo left his spot near the front of the plane and went back to where some players had gathered to play cards, choosing to hang out there while his assistants watched film. That will get you fired. I do not care if you work at Abercrombie & Fitch. That'll get you fired. You're telling me Jerod Mayo, after he lost 30-17 to the Cardinals coming off a bye, neglected to watch film on the flight back to New England and went back to the back of the plane as if he was a player and played cards with some of the guys? I'd be a player being like, what are you doing here? Don't deal him cards. Don't let him in. Don't let us hang out. What are you doing, Jerod Mayo? So before you say, man, I feel bad for Mayo, I wish they gave him more time, I hope that sticks in the front of your frontal lobe when you look at why they fired Jerod Mayo. So my question here for you guys is, did you want Jerod Mayo fired? I saw a lot of you guys commenting on my TikTok, my Twitter, my YouTube post. saying you didn't want Jerod Mayo fired because you wanted to give him more time. And I understand that's the empathetic side of us because we do appreciate these people, not as head coaches. But after reading that report, I'm glad they did. Type Y for yes, type N for no. And I'm going to be honest, look, roster aside, the roster was shit. All right, Bill Belichick went 4-13 with pretty much the same roster except for Drake May. Mayo wasn't right for the job. He was not right for the job, not 5 years ago when he was predicted to be the successor for Bill Belichick. This was not the right guy for the 2024 New England Patriots, and we suffered from it. We found that out. Why? Because I appreciate that he was a player. He's not the first former player to become a head coach, but he couldn't take himself out of the player mindset because he's probably thinking, yeah, I'm on an away game. I'm gonna sit on the plane here. Well, as a player, yeah, you're supposed to be dealing and wheeling cards, putting money on the table, relaxing, watching, eating grapes, whatever. As a head coach, you're supposed to watch film and be disciplined and wonder why you just lost that ball game, not hanging out with the other players. And then Robert Kraft comes out here, and you got to feel for Robert Kraft because he's known Jerod Mayo for 17-plus years. He handpicked Jerod Mayo 5 years ago. And then the day after they fired Jerod Mayo, Robert Kraft came to the podium and he said this: I feel terrible for Jerod because I put him in an untenable situation. I know that he has all the tools as a head coach to be successful in this league. He just needed more time before taking the job. And I completely agree. And I feel bad for Jerod Mayo. I'm not here to belittle him or point out all of his flaws. It was an unfortunate circumstance for New England. But I do think that Bill Belichick was fired a little bit prematurely than the New England Patriots thought. Why do I say that? Is because Bill Belichick is currently coaching now at University of Carolina. So he's not done coaching, but he was clearly done with his tenure in New England. They probably thought they had maybe, two more good years out of Bill before Jerod Mayo was going to step in. Maybe by the 2026 Patriots, Jerod Mayo could have stepped in. But Bill, he got fired a little bit sooner than expected, so Mayo had to step up sooner than expected. And I think it's really unfair that, and I hate the word unfair because, number one, nobody told you it was going to be fair. But I do understand his circumstances was that the Patriots wanted Mayo to learn on the job after they fired Bill Belichick, but you set him up for failure because you gave him a rookie staff. You gave him a rookie roster, hinting that you gave him Drake May. So when you give him a first-year OC and a DC, he had no experience, not whatsoever as a head coach, and then he had no networking abilities to go out and get the OC and the DC that he wanted. So Robert Kraft said, let's let Alex Van Pelt and Marcus Covington learn on the job too. Guess what that gets you? A 4-13 record. Guess what that gets you? A guy that goes to the back of the plane and hangs out with the Patriots players rather than sitting with his assistants up front saying, we should have ran Drake May on the 1-yard line on 3-1 and 4-1. That's not taking accountability for a shitty football program that you are leading. But coming up next, I'm going to hear from some Patriots players on what they had to say that led to Mayo's firing. And once again, I do feel bad for him, but he could have helped himself. He had 18 weeks plus more to help himself, and he couldn't get out of his own way. Before I do that, if you guys are looking to find a ticket to any concert, comedy show, or theater production, go on ahead and use Game Time. This is the number one way I get tickets to any sporting event coming up, whether it's the Celtics, the Red Sox, the Bruins, the Patriots next year with a possible new head coach. If you guys want to go on ahead and get the lowest price guaranteed, and you want to make sure that you're going to be able to see the view from your seat before you buy, use Game Time. The number one thing I love about Game Time is the fact that the total you guys see up front is a total you will pay. No surprise fees, none of that. So when I know I'm going to spend my well-earned hard money on tickets, I know that I'm not going to get bamboozled at the end of the checkout line and say, here's $75 extra of fees. You have no idea where they're coming from. So if you guys want to go on ahead and check out the Patriots, the Celtics, the Bruins, the Red Sox, or anything else in America, go on ahead and download Game Time. Use promo code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first time buying tickets while terms apply. Again, download Game Time. Use promo code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. What time is it? It is game time. With Bill Belichick and then leading into Jerod Mayo, you could tell that Mayo didn't seem confident taking over a head coaching responsibilities. Head coaching responsibilities, not that I know what exactly they entail, but I have a pretty good idea of just being 26 years old and having a brain, is that you have to take discipline. You have to give discipline. You have to take accountability. You have to make big decisions in terms of who's starting and who's not. Playing Jacoby Brissett for 5 weeks ahead of Drake May is ungodly to think of. I had to sit through 5 weeks of Jacoby Brissett highlights when you had a rookie that could have possibly helped you win one of those games in those 5 weeks. Jerod Mayo wasn't equipped to look at himself in the mirror, look at his Patriots staff, and confidently choose what needed to happen for New England. And some big decisions that come to my mind, despite the Jacoby Brissett and Drake May 5 weeks sit and start, benching Ramondre Stevenson. He's going to come out here and say that Antonio Gibson's going to start. Doesn't start Antonio Gibson the next game. And when he says he benches Ramondre, he sits him out for a drive. He led the league in fumbles for running backs. There needs to be discipline for a guy that keeps coughing up the pill. And then discipline for penalties. When your team is 12 penalties deep, they go 15 penalties the next game, and you're coming out here in the post-game press conference, you're not addressing it whatsoever. Penalties and fumbling, that's a part of the game. But they can be fixed, and they should be fixed. And then when you look more at the other big decisions that he had to create, it was locker room. Holding the locker room accountable. You had players yelling at fans. Jelani Tavai saying Patriots fans need to know their place. You had guys going out on podcasts saying, I'm not on the same page as my coaches. That is internal conversations you need to keep internal. You needed to have accountability in the locker room, and it wasn't there. And I'm not the one saying this. It's the guys in the locker room. Anonymous veteran Patriots players coming out saying, I lost faith that we were headed in the right direction. I felt like they were making it up as they went along. It was amazing how one day it would be this, and then the next day it would be something completely different. And that's going to come with a guy learning on the job, and I'm okay with him finding his footing. But if your players don't have respect and they don't have trust in you, you've lost the locker room. And that comes with being a head coach, is having the locker room. And so I think when you now have, 2-3 days after your firing, you now have anonymous Patriots players coming out here saying, all along, I didn't feel like this was right. All along, I felt like Jerod Mayo wasn't the right guy for the job. It really, really starts to raise a lot of red flags that the Patriots could have been missing throughout the entire year. And once again, Mayo as a person, great guy. I'm sure he's a great guy. I've never met him as a head coach. It wasn't right. Because another Patriots player came out on top of the other anonymous player and said it became more about looking myself in the mirror and the guys in my room and the huddle and saying, I'm leaving it out here for you. Because I never believed what we had that edge in coaching. Players were playing for themselves, not for the team. They were playing for their teammates, not for the head coach. You need to play for your head coach because your head coach's job depends on you. You need to play for your head coach because you trust that he's going to take you to the promised land. You had Dan Campbell crying on the football practice field because he believed so strongly in the Detroit Lions 3 years ago when they were ass. Now look at them. They're MVP favorites to win the Super Bowl. When you look at what a guy like Dan Campbell did, he struggled with the team until they were on top, and now he's celebrating with the team. Jerod Mayo didn't embrace the struggle. It was Mayo, and it was the players. And it was two different franchises, and that can't happen. Overall, Mayo wasn't ready for the job. I'm glad they fired him. I think firing him was the right decision. It sucks because he is an alumni. Hell, give him a front office job. Make him a marketing guy. I don't care. But Jerod Mayo wasn't right to be head coach, and I think they notice that now, and I'm excited for the future. My last thing here for you guys, do you agree with me? Firing Mayo was the right move. I feel bad for him. I do wish that he had more time to be successful in New England, but it wasn't in his cards. His cards were in the back of the plane with the Patriots players. Boom! Like this video if you guys agree. And as always,